The inauguration of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States has triggered extensive debate and global speculation about how his administration could reshape the trajectory of the Ukraine conflict. Trump has promised a novel approach to diplomacy and conflict resolution, a pledge that has left stakeholders around the world both curious and cautious. These changes could extend to critical areas such as military strategy, economic sanctions, global energy markets, and peace negotiations. Beyond these immediate considerations, the long-term ramifications of Trump's foreign policy choices could redefine the international geopolitical order for decades to come. One of the most urgent and closely watched aspects of President Trump's administration is how it will handle U.S. military assistance to Ukraine. Early indications suggest that his administration might consider reducing the robust military aid that was a hallmark of the Biden presidency. This potential pivot raises serious concerns, as Ukrainian forces heavily depend on U.S.-supplied weaponry, intelligence sharing, and training to sustain their defense against Russian aggression. A cutback in military aid could place Ukraine in a precarious position, potentially eroding its ability to maintain the momentum needed to counter Russia's advances. Currently, key systems such as the HIMARS rocket artillery and advanced air defense platforms have provided Ukraine with significant tactical advantages. Should these resources be scaled down or withdrawn, Ukraine might be forced to adopt a more defensive posture, seek alternative support from European allies or private defense contractors, or even adjust its broader military strategy. Conversely, Trump's emphasis on negotiating an expedited end to the conflict could lead to the redeployment of U.S. resources to other global challenges. For instance, Trump's administration may shift focus toward countering China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. While this strategic realignment might alleviate some of the financial and logistical strain on the U.S. defense budget, it could also weaken NATO's cohesion, placing more responsibility on European nations to address regional security issues. Such a shift could alter the balance of power not only in Europe but also across other key theaters of global competition. Economic sanctions have been one of the most effective tools wielded by the West to put pressure on Russia. Trump's administration might adopt a more transactional approach, using sanctions as a bargaining chip in peace negotiations. This could involve selectively easing restrictions on Russian entities in exchange for concrete actions such as troop withdrawals, agreements to establish demilitarized zones, or other measurable steps toward de-escalation. However, critics caution that any signs of leniency could embolden the Kremlin, encouraging further aggression or undermining the broader Western effort to hold Russia accountable. Additionally, the European Union, which has already borne the economic brunt of the sanctions through higher energy prices and trade disruptions, might find itself at odds with the U.S. if Trump adopts a less stringent approach. This divergence could strain transatlantic relations and weaken the unity that has so far characterized the Western response to the crisis. Maintaining a consistent and coordinated sanctions policy will be a delicate balancing act with potentially far-reaching consequences for the global economy. Energy policy is poised to be a cornerstone of Trump's strategy for addressing the Ukraine conflict. During his previous leadership, Trump championed the expansion of domestic fossil fuel production and energy exports, a stance he is likely to double down on in his second term. By boosting U.S. oil and gas exports, Trump aims to diminish global dependence on Russian energy, depriving Moscow of a vital revenue stream. Additionally, Trump's administration may seek to use energy diplomacy as a lever to influence Russia's actions. Proposals to cap the price of Russian oil exports, improve alternative energy infrastructure in Europe, or offer technical assistance to NATO allies could serve as tools to both weaken Russia's economic position and strengthen Western energy security. These initiatives could be particularly impactful for Eastern European nations, which remain vulnerable to disruptions in Russian energy supplies. Yet implementing such policies will require careful coordination with allies and private sector stakeholders to minimize unintended economic consequences, such as market instability or energy shortages. Balancing these considerations will be a critical test of Trump's leadership on the global stage. While much of the focus remains on military and economic aspects of the Ukraine conflict, the staggering human cost cannot be ignored. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced by the war, creating one of the largest refugee crises in modern history. Entire cities and regions have been reduced to rubble, leaving countless families without access to basic necessities like food, clean water, and healthcare. The Trump administration has a significant opportunity to address these humanitarian challenges. Expanding support for displaced Ukrainians could involve funding for temporary housing, healthcare services, and education programs. Partnerships with international organizations such as the United Nations and the Red Cross could help facilitate refugee resettlement and provide essential services to affected populations. Furthermore, investments in rebuilding Ukraine's critical infrastructure, such as schools, hospitals, and transportation networks, could not only alleviate immediate suffering but also lay the groundwork for long-term stability and growth. By prioritizing humanitarian aid, Trump's administration could improve the United States' reputation as a global leader in crisis management and demonstrate a commitment to upholding human dignity in the face of adversity. Trump's presidency could herald significant changes in the global balance of power. His America First doctrine, which prioritizes U.S. interests above multilateral cooperation, could lead to a re-evaluation of key alliances and partnerships. For example, Trump has previously criticized NATO members for not meeting defense spending targets, a stance that could create friction with European allies. On the other hand, this pressure might push European nations to take greater responsibility for their own defense, potentially fostering the development of a more independent European security framework. In the Asia-Pacific region, Trump's policies could shift the delicate balance of power between the US, China, and Russia. A renewed emphasis on countering China's growing influence might inadvertently strengthen ties between Beijing and Moscow, complicating efforts to diplomatically and economically isolate Russia. This highlights the interconnected nature of modern geopolitics, where shifts in one region often reverberate across the globe. The most pressing question surrounding Trump's presidency is whether his administration can effectively broker a lasting peace in Ukraine. While Trump has expressed confidence in his ability to negotiate an end to the conflict, experts warn that the road to peace is fraught with challenges. Any agreement would need to address a host of complex and contentious issues, including territorial sovereignty, the rights of ethnic minorities, and mechanisms for enforcing a ceasefire. Moreover, achieving peace will require the cooperation of multiple stakeholders, including Ukraine, Russia, NATO, the European Union, and the United Nations. Ensuring that all parties feel their concerns are addressed and their interests are safeguarded will be crucial to securing a sustainable agreement. This process will test not only Trump's diplomatic skills, but also the ability of the international community to work together toward a shared goal of stability and peace. But what do you think will Donald Trump's taking office lead to Ukraine facing pressure to stop these attacks? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching this video. Now go check out Why Is It Over for Russia, or click this other video instead.